of my way. I shouted 'cause I know my soul is made of gold, invincible. I will stand the test of time. Shout it out loud. I am black and proud. Don't care what you say. Move out of my way. Don't care what you say. Don't care. I don't care. I don't care what you say.
Hello and welcome back to an extra special episode of Musicals with Cheese, where I am talking to one of my favorite people, and it's been way too long since she's been on. Please join me in welcoming vocalist, artist, actress, songwriter, and 1,000 other multi-hyphenates. It's Lulu Fall back again!
Hello, everybody.
Lulu, it's so great to have you back on, and it's a little surreal because the first time we had you on, you were like in New York on like a balcony somewhere, and
Yes.
now you are in Metro Detroit. You are
Yes.
a Detroiter.
Yes, I would bet thousands of dollars that there is no way that I would have ever moved out here. And no disrespect to Metro Detroit. I went to Michigan State. The reason why I have been frequenting Michigan for the past 7 years was because Chris Johnson, he was a friend of mine. He is a friend of mine. He's also my partner in crime, my writing partner, my business partner, and he is my husband. And he is from the Detroit area. So I knew sooner than later we'd have to, kind of figure out how to make this long distance thing not. But I just never ever thought that I would move out here, much less purchase a home out here. It's just funny how things just, come back full circle, whether you're ready for it or not.
And it from what we've chatted about, because we've talked quite a few times in the interim, despite not being on the show, you are thriving. You are living your best life. You seem so happy, and I'm here for it. But we're not talking about Detroit. We are talking about the fact that on this day that you're hearing this, probably September 16th, you have a brand new album out.
I do. I'm so excited.
It is very exciting. And I've actually been with this album for a few months, actually. Like, you were very kind enough to give it to me. The album is called Transform, correct?
Yes, it's called Transform. Yes.
And where can people get it? Because I think it's very important that you guys pause this podcast, jump onto your favorite, like Spotify's, your Apple Musics and whatnot. You listen to this album, then you're going to come back here and we're going to tell you about every one of them songs.
Exactly. So this is a digital release, and it's technically a 5-song EP, but I totally call it an album myself. It is a digital
I'm a theater
release.
bro. I don't know those music terms.
Know, right? It's a digital release, so it's on all major digital platforms, including my website. You can purchase directly on lulufall.com. You can go to bandcamp.com, which is really, really, really a great website for artists and for fans to directly relate with artists. And then, of course, you have like the larger platforms like Spotify, Tidal, Apple Music. I'm probably missing several others, but yeah, you got places. Go get it.
Mm-hmm. What Lulu isn't saying is buy from her website and she'll get more money. If you do it through Spotify, not so much. So I'm going to trust y'all are going to go to her website and buy it right now, and that you've done it. You've listened to it 10 times and now you're back here. So, awesome. Lulu, when did you start working on this album?
Well, funny enough, I didn't realize that I was working on an album until I was just about done. So in retrospect, I think I slowly started working on this album in 2019. Yeah.
That's the year that everything was normal for a bit.
Yes, that was the last year that everything was normal, and then everything changed. Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm. What was the first song on the album you wrote? We'll go through it track by track, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, the first song was actually Black and Proud.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense. Let's just start with the first one because we're gonna go in order. So, In Love with You.
I cannot eat nor sleep. These butterflies are floating around. Anticipation has got you in my head. I can't get you out. I go to work, come home. I scan my hood in hopes I find you. To my surprise, I see you nowhere inside. I don't know what I'ma do. I pop and pour some wine. Daydream about your smile. I sit on my stoop, feeling fancy free. Sunbeaming like a halo on Bistro.
Great opening song. I feel like just the same with musicals, albums, you pick certain songs in certain orders because you want people to feel a certain way. Why is this
Of
the first track on
course.
the album?
That's a really good question. I wanted people to feel good, especially after 2.5 years of hellish global crises, pandemic, political, racial, etc. I wanted to open this EP with just something nostalgic, something comfortable, something mildly familiar, hence the nostalgia, and something that was just going to feel like a summer breeze as opposed to this is transformed. Everything has changed. Life sucks. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
This
I
feels
thought
like
that,
the antithesis of the 2020, like of the 2020
yeah,
so far.
absolutely. And also, this song, this opening song, "In Love with You," is very much so indicative of this new chapter in my life that started at the end of December 2019, where I left New York with every intention of splitting my time, just not being 100% 24/7 there all the time, just because it was starting to affect my emotional health, my mental health. So in many ways, this song is indicative of a new chapter. Of course, Chris and I, we've been together for 8 years, married for 1. But the reason why I say that this kind of ties into a new chapter is 2019 was the first time that Chris and I ever lived together. And of course, unbeknownst to all of us, we would be locked down together. So that was interesting. But yeah, In Love with You, very, very much so, just encompasses just young, thriving, beautiful, real love, not infatuation, real love, just summer breezes, long walks. You just feel open and warm and cool. And that's what I wanted the vibe to start off with.
And it's really effective. I think my favorite and like the most like engaging part of the song is the spoken part near the end.
I've never done that before.
It felt very, because I've listened to your music. I think we've
Yeah.
set up that I'm a fan of you and your work and Chris's work, of course.
Thank you.
It was shocking in a good way, where I'm like, okay, it felt like, yeah, this is the real you chatting with me, and the end of it where it's hand in hand, now let's begin. Like that is it. That is what the feeling of going on this journey is, and both
Yeah.
a journey through your album as well. I felt both of those feelings, and I think it was very effective.
Oh, well, I didn't even really think about that because yes, as the opening number,
Yes.
let's journey together hand in hand now, let's begin. Yeah. The beginning of this relationship, the beginning of this partnership between, the listener and the vocalist, the writer, the producer, the whatever, going on this journey together, this 5-song journey. So thank you for bringing that to my attention.
Yeah, I mean, when you think of an artist and you think of them speaking to you and the listener and the person that they love in this context, it is also like, okay, we're on for a ride. Let's go.
Yeah. And also, so the reason why, one, I've been told that I have a nice speaking voice, which I never thought I did because I tend to sound very monotonous, but I'm also an actor. So, through the years, I've learned how to emote through my speaking voice. But aside from that, because this song just felt so nostalgic and it felt so, I don't know, it felt a bit throwbacky without being like vintage or anything. It just kind of felt like a nod to all of the other, R&B and soul artists that came well before me, like Jill Scott. I mean, she's a person that
Mhm.
was just like in my head. Because of that, I thought, well, I do have like this little bridge here. What am I going to do? And I said, what would Jill Scott do? She would talk to you. And so that was my inspiration because I love anything that Jill Scott does. So that was my personal ode to Miss Jill.
It's beautiful. It really is a
Thank
beautiful
you.
song and just an upbeat, pleasant song. I listen to it a lot. Like this one is like the one I put
Oh,
on the gym probably the most on this album. Probably this and Float are the two big ones that I'm like, all right, these are the first
oh
on the playlist
Lord.
for the morning.
My God, float's something else.
Yeah, it is. We'll get to that,
Yeah,
but
we'll
first,
get it.
let's
Yes.
let's move on to Black and Proud.
To make me fall. You can fear me with your hate, but I stand tall. I will survive the things you say and carry on. Because I am proud. You can abuse me with your words, but I won't move. You can dismiss me with your slurs, but smile I choose. My blackness isn't your concern. I am not your fool. Because I am proud. I'm gonna shout it out loud. I am black and proud. Don't care what you say. Move out of my way.
Yeah, I heard this one live when you performed with the DSO whatever outdoor
Yeah, the
thing.
Saw Snake Summer Series. Yep,
In-
yep.
Incredible. The
Thank
album
you.
mixing it's beautiful, but nothing tops hearing you sing it live. So I do want to say
Oh,
if you get the chance to see her live, it's better.
oh, thank you. Thank you. I always want to sound better live than, in a captured
Mhm.
recording.
But you also gave an anecdote with it where you and Chris went to Africa. Am
Oh
I
my God.
correct?
You are correct. In the song?
I think it was nearby. It was either right before or right after. But I was wondering. I just wanted to talk about that because I think that's really cool.
Oh, yes, please, please. Yeah.
I wanted to know more about that trip, and we'll go on to the song. The song is tangentially connected, but we'll get
For
on to that.
sure, for sure. Well, it pains me to say that my mom passed away
Hmm.
last May, May
I'm so sorry.
27th. Thank you. Talk about life completely changing, and that
Hmm.
being a huge reason why I decided to name this EP Transform.
Hmm.
2020 was a transformational year where the world literally stood still. I have never experienced that before. And the first thing that I thought was, there is a global crisis happening. There's a reason. And I'm always the type of person that is driven by
Hmm.
reason. What is the why and what can I do to XYZ? So I knew that 2020 for me was going to be a year of transformation, particularly because the entire world was going through something so incredibly scary. And on top of that, I always thought, what is the reason behind this global massive change where people left and right, unfortunately, are dying? This is sure to change us all. How am I going to grow from this? How am I going to change from this? Right?
Hmm.
So in 2020, that's when I realized, ooh, I think I might have an album on my hands. I wasn't sure if it was going to be a concept album or not, but I knew that there was something brewing, but I was allowing myself to take my time with it. And then fast forward to 2021, my mom died and everything changed and everything is still changing. And every single day I am struggling with remembering who I am, struggling with remembering what my mom smelled like or what her hands feel like. We were and are best friends. I say are because she's still here. She's still here spiritually. I cannot see her physically, but I know that she's here and I sense her a lot. And we had and have a very a very strong spiritual bond. We always have. And so I'm just allowing myself to lean into that more. Anyway, so my trip to New York, my trip to Senegal, West Africa, very different. Going to Senegal in May of this year with Chris was multifaceted. One, I went out there to commemorate my mom's 1 year anniversary, which was insanely difficult. But two, I knew that because I had gone out there last year, prior to our passing, I knew that I underwent a lot of trauma, psychologically, emotionally, physically, because I couldn't really eat, so I lost a lot of weight. And I knew that I needed some extra support a year later. And so, of course, when I started to formulate the question to my husband, hey, would you be interested in going to Senegal next year? He just cut me off and was like, I will go. You don't have to ask me. I am there. He said, also, I've been on many continents, but never the African continent. So I thought that even though it was very, very bittersweet to go out there, there was also such beauty and exploration because I was going on this trip with my American husband, American husband who had never traveled to Africa at all. And so I knew that it was going to be a point of exploration for us, for him, and for my dad. For my dad and I to experience Chris Johnson in Senegal, thousands upon thousands of miles away. So it was really, really beautiful. Poor Chris was culturally shocked for like 3 days. He didn't really talk much for the first 3 days, but I was also wrapped up in a lot of emotion. So that gave me selfishly a few days to understand what's going on and to try to put myself back in my body. But it was a wonderful trip. We ate some very yummy food. My dad drove us around and showed us lots and lots of places. We visited family. We got some custom clothing made. Of course, we visited my mom at her permanent place of rest, which was very, very difficult, but it was also extremely necessary. I needed to do that to be able to start beginning my journey towards healing and deep transformation myself. It was great. Yeah.
I'm glad I asked this question because it dives into the title and all that. And I'm so grateful that you let us meaning the audience, know that I'm grateful that you had that opportunity. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
I'm grateful you got to see that Chris had that opportunity.
I
and I
know.
feel I can't even go to Canada without like the culture shock. I can't imagine how he was holding up. So I feel for
that poor man. He just like, his eyes were just wide open. He was like, oh, I need a moment, and would just disappear sometimes. Would come back and would disappear again. I said, oh, okay, he'll be fine. He's acclimating himself. Yeah.
Yes. I'm going to take a turn back to Black and Proud, which is a beautiful, triumphant number about your pride in your culture, your pride in your color. And it's not the first time you've done this because you've also talked about like Pretty for a Dark Girl in a previous song.
Yes.
I just would love to unpack like your relationship with like colorism and all that kind of stuff that you had to likely had to deal with, and how you come to terms with that and all that, and how it leads into this beautiful song and this anthem you've written.
Wow. Well, that's again wonderful question. I tend to be very long-winded, so I'm going to try to not.
That's fine. I mean, I'd be here all day, but I know you've got an event to do.
I know. I have to start teaching lessons at 2, but so I'm just going to start from the beginning and, keep it short. I'm first generation African American, which for those of you who did get a copy of my latest release, Between Two Worlds, that I released in 2019, that is my first ever concept album. And it's called Between Two Worlds because that is exactly how I felt for years upon years, from childhood to probably a little bit post-college. It comes and goes, but my parents, are from Africa. My father's from Senegal, West Africa. My mom's from Cameroon, Central Africa. And my sisters and I were born in Washington, D.C. Now, up until college, I just assumed that every Black person had parents that came specifically, that were born first, that were born in Africa. didn't realize that that's not necessarily the case, that I'm first generation African American, not years, years upon years, centuries even
Mhm.
removed, like most of my Black friends, honestly, all of them.
Mhm.
So there was a lot of uncertainty and, dare I say, just identity crises that I kept kind of getting running into when I was a kid, because I would be told that I wasn't American enough for my American friends, but then my traditional African family, not including my parents, but more so like my extended family,
Right.
told me, "Oh, you're too Americanized. You're not African anymore." I was confused. So that is basically my childhood, being told I'm not this or I'm too much of this. And then at school, it's the complete opposite. So I found myself trying on all these different hats. But then as a result, I was severely misunderstood. I was severely confused, and I misunderstood myself because I was trying on all these different hats and couldn't quite figure out who I am. Also, my parents never really talked to us about what it means to be first generation African American in America,
Right.
and I don't know if you know about this, but for a long time, and I'm sure it's still palpable, but I didn't realize that for a long time there was such a strain between Black Americans and Africans, because of the same underlying issue that, oh well, yeah, sure, you're Black, but you're not African, you're not from here. And then on the other end of the spectrum, oh yeah, you're African. Our ancestors came from where
Mm.
you and your very people are probably from, but you're not American because you weren't a slave, and you didn't, build this country up and all this and all that. So
Yeah.
it's like some really, really, really deep rooted, convoluted shit. And at the end of the day, we all need harmony because guess what? We are all the same anyway, first and foremost. I don't want to get too deep into that because there are a lot of people that don't
Mhm.
believe that, and that's neither here nor there. But growing up, I was teased a lot for having dark skin. I was teased a lot for wearing African clothing. Then I was teased a lot because I was a tomboy for a long time. I was doing my best to stay true to myself. And one of the best ways in which I was able to stay true to myself, and my mom helps me with this so much, was through clothing. My mom, ever since I was young, she must have seen some type of internal struggle that I was dealing with, because she never said this to my sisters, but she always said this to me. She said, "Lulu, always express yourself. Il faut t'exprimer," which means you have to express yourself. And I'd say, okay. And so she would coax me into expressing myself through clothing. And that's where I started to discover color
Mhm.
and textures, in conjunction with, just the colors and textures that we would always have in our house, because Africa is very, very colorful and tactile. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Excuse me. So as I got older, as I started to find my way through this thing called life, I started hearing, "You're pretty for a dark skinned girl," or "You don't look African, you don't look like them. You look kind of American, but you're dark skinned, but you're pretty." Like, I just kept hearing all these different iterations of, "Oh, I normally don't like dark skinned girls, but you're cute," or "You're not light skinned, but I hit that." I mean, I'm telling you, all the things. And
My
it
God.
was, yeah, I'm telling you, from elementary school all the way up to definitely post college. I wouldn't say it happens more so now. People do say ignorant stuff, okay? But at this point, I'm used to it, and I'm kind of sick and tired of educating everybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I ended up writing "Pretty for a Dark Girl," and "Pretty for a Dark Girl" is from my first collaborative album with Chris called "The Unpaved Road," which was released in 2017. So this precedes "Between Two Worlds," which kind of dives into my identity crisis
Mhm.
even more. But I knew that I wasn't the only person struggling with being pretty for a dark girl. I have lots of dark skinned friends, I have lots of light skinned friends. And it's funny because, of course, my dark skinned friends and I related very, very much so on this particular topic, which later on made me write the song, right?
Mhm.
Write it along with Chris and say, "Chris, I have a great idea. It's going to hurt, but I also think that it's going to free a lot of stuff inside of me, which I hope will do the same for others." But then also, I will never understand this particular struggle, but my light skinned friends, including Chris, they were discriminated against because they were too light and therefore weren't Black enough. And so, my God, it's just it's insane. And I feel like all of this light skin versus dark skin stuff, the paper, what is it, the brown paper bag test, all of that came as a result of slavery. You have the field Negro, the dark. If we were in slavery times today, me being dark skinned, I would be outside in the fields. And then you have the house Negro. Think Chris Johnson, who's fairly light skinned.
Yeah.
In order to preserve his caramel skin, you stay inside. You have more privileges, quote unquote, right? So they created the stigma where they separated us for a long time. So yeah, the field Negro, the house Negro, all of that, generations removed, it turned into this team light skin, team dark skin thing. So I knew that I wanted to write a song highlighting not only my struggle, but the struggle of many Black and brown people across cultures, across the country, across the world. So, so fast forward to Black and Proud.
Yes.
Funny enough, I was in my Inwood apartment in New York, 5th floor walk up, my goodness. And I sat down, I decided to watch the Netflix documentary about Quincy Jones. Of course, I know a lot about his life already, but I love a good documentary. And especially when it's really good, it makes you cry, it makes you feel things, it makes you proud. And as soon as the credits started rolling, all of a sudden, I started hearing, I said, oh shit, I think I got a song. So I ran over, right. So I ran over to my keyboard, I started like plunking out some notes, plunking out some chords, recorded something, sent it to Chris. I was like, help me make sense of this. But all that to say, there was something about his life, something about Quincy Jones's life, all the trials, the tribulations, all the struggles, but all the successes that he had in the backdrop of all these major struggles throughout these decades, that he was not only alive but thriving. That made me feel so proud, and it just pulled something out of me. It pulled something completely out of me, and I told myself right then and there, I'm going to create a song that's going to be a modern day anthem for Black people. Black people, meaning Caribbean, meaning American, meaning African, meaning Afro-Cuban, anyone from the African diaspora, not just Black American or not just African. So that's why I just said Black. Any one of us who identifies as Black or dark skin or whatever you want to call it, the song is for you. Let's uplift each other.
And as someone that has had the opportunity to see you perform this live in front of a lot of mixed races, I'd say like dark skinned, light skinned, they love this song. It is the anthem speaks to people. So truly incredible work. I love this song.
Thank you so much.
We're gonna move on to another song that might secretly be my favorite song on the album, and it's Beyond Control.
Techno bossa, jazz is ringing in my ears, packed like sardines, yet the music keeps me dangerously still, relaxed and chilled. My mind goes haywire, imagination beyond control. Catching eyes with children right across the aisle.
I love that song.
I wonder if you feel like nostalgia for New York when you hear it or sing it now or things like that.
I do. I mean, I love New York. I love New York so much. I understand, and it took a lot of maturity, right? I understand that I can't necessarily live there 24/7 anymore. I book a contract, I book a show, I'm there. I'm there, I'm immersed there. And then I can leave and come back and find the equilibrium that I need for my lifestyle.
Right.
But one of my favorite pastimes in New York was to ride the train and make sure that I have a soundtrack of at least like an hour's worth of my favorite songs in my head while I'm riding the train. As an actor, as a singer, as a songwriter, when you're busy in New York, you're extremely busy. But then
Yes.
when you're not super busy, when you have a lot of downtime, I call that my incubation period where I'm writing a lot, or, I grab my camera and start taking pictures, just kind of doing my best to get as much information as I can to be able to feel my artistry, feel my next creation, whatever that is. And so one of my favorite things to do, especially if I had several hours to kill, was create a playlist and just ride the train. And my God, even though for any of y'all that live in New York or have experienced New York, you know that it's a very frenetic place. You know that there are characters that literally come out of cracks in the wall. So yes. So, you're on the train, like you just see a whole bunch of nonsense. You see jugglers, you see homeless, people begging for money. You see someone that looks at you and wants to fight you. And then you see certain people who are listening to music and they look so happy and they look like they're so blissed out. And that was me. I had to create some type of bliss. Not, of course, not only in the confines of my own apartment, but you have to find your peace in a fairly insane place like New York, a beautiful place. But let's be honest, right? And so one of my safe favorite places outside of being at home was riding the train, especially when you're outdoors and you just see all of these beautiful bits of nature and New York architecture just whizzing by, and you're listening to music. It's like the best of both worlds. And that's only something that I experience in New York. So that was my ode to New York.
And it's a beautiful ode.
Thank you.
One of the things, and I think this just generally goes for your songwriting and specifically your lyrics. I see a lot of folks who write songs and they're very general. Yours are very specific. They are very direct. You paint a picture, like naming specific bands like Coldplay, Nina Miles, like all.
I know.
A lot of folks would just say general music, but I love the specificity of this. I love the fact that it's not the choices that other people would put as their choices. It's not the casual listeners that people would say when they're like, "Oh, what do you listen to on the bus?" I really, really liked it. I think this is a beautiful ode to New York and all of its pros and cons in a weird way. Like you framed even the cons as pros. It's beautiful.
Exactly. I'm like, packed like sardines. Yes, I remember what that feels like. But the music, and this is literally a lyric, packed like sardines, yet the music keeps me dangerously still, relaxed and chilled. There's just something so beautiful about taking something as chaotic as being like shoved in a subway car, right? And then juxtaposing that with some dope ass music that you're listening to. And thank you for saying that, my music is my songwriting in particular is very specific. When I teach, songwriting lessons, when I teach songwriting lessons, I always tell my songwriting students, you want to be specific enough to be able to relate to, for whatever topic your piece is, to stand out, but you want to be general enough to relate to as many people as possible, if that makes any sense. So I love to kind of teeter on that edge of, what's too specific versus I can just say, oh, I'm listening to some love songs. Well, what love song?
Exactly.
There's so many love songs out there, but everyone knows Coldplay. There are some people that know who Nina Simone is, and everybody knows Miles Davis too. Yes. So I just kind of wanted to, it allows me to kind of like reach a hand down and just kind of pull at certain people's heartstrings, while also allowing the general public to really swim and flourish in this music, even if they don't know exactly what I'm talking about. The feel behind the music and the rhythms, behind the melodies, I believe that promotes some type of familiarity with everyone. So I'm constantly trying to find the different balances while pushing boundaries. And I love to songwrite. I'm sure you can tell.
Oh, yeah. But I think you love to do a lot of things. But the thing that makes me respect you and also pisses me off is that you're so damn good at all of them.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
I'm like, some of us aren't even good at one thing, Lulu.
And And
Stop
then
it.
all of a sudden it's like, oh, you paint too? Yes, yes, I paint too.
High school reunions are like, and you're doing what now?
I know, I know, I know. Now it's, just the hardest thing is trying to figure out how to market myself, you know? I mean, of
Mhm.
course, I've been doing this for some years, but, things are constantly changing. So as an entrepreneur, like you constantly have to keep an ear to the ground because everything is changing all the time. And that's something that personally I still find is a challenge, but
Mhm.
I put it all in my art anyway, whatever form of art I decide to dive into.
That's incredible. I think we got to move on just only because of time, because I could talk to you about art for 5 hours.
I
But
know, I know.
let's talk about Float next. I love this song.
It's the way you float. We share a synergy. Oh, it's the way you float. It's in your energy. It's the way you float. We share a synergy. Time stands still since you've gone. Flowers lose their will to survive. Life reeks of love lost. Home is where we've thrived. My nest is empty, only filled with old memories. Your breath still dances on my neck. I spin around, but no one's there. It's the way you float. It's in your energy. It's the way you float. We share.
Dude, this song came to me in a dream.
Let's talk. Let's hear about the dream.
Yes. Yes. So in this dream, it was a dark room, and there was a big TV. And on TV, a friend of mine who was actually my vocal student for a short time, a friend of mine, her name is Anais. Beautiful name, right? I love her name.
Oh, incredible.
uh, she was singing the chorus. It's the way you float. It's in your energy. It's the way you float. We share a synergy. So it was my voice, but it was her singing. I was like, whoa, this is free. But so I'm sitting in this dark room and I'm packing clothes. I don't know where it was going, but I see her singing. And it's just her profile and she's just kind of like singing out into the ether. And as I look around, I see like, just specks of dust particles, like sparks everywhere. And that is what literally brought me to my first line. I see sparks everywhere, every corner of this room. And it's funny, as I was writing this song, I was like, okay, I'm trying to understand what this song is about because it seems as though this song is indicative of being in a room or being in a space or being in an environment where you feel that there's a familiar presence next to you, but you turn around, but they're not there. But you feel everything like, the hairs on your neck standing up or goosebumps or, kind of like seeing particles and stuff. What's really funny is I wrote this song with Chris prior to my mom passing away.
Right.
Well, I guess as far as the production element goes, we did that after my mom passed. But the lyrics, the melody, and all that stuff, that was already done. I honestly was trying to figure out, okay, where's the song going to go and what is it about? It's very interesting that it took me experiencing this traumatic loss for me to realize, holy crap, this song is about a familiar spirit being next to me. And to make this even weirder, this song came to me in a dream. I don't know what kind of foreshadowing this was, but in that moment, after crying like a bucket full of tears, I decided to be highly intentional with the production of it. So, Chris and I sat in our home studio and we just went through all these different sounds because I really, really wanted it to be very tactile. I also wanted it to be very, not creepy, but I wanted the backdrop of the music to remind me personally, and probably others, of the ways in which my mom communicates with me. And I don't want to scare anyone, but one of the biggest ways apparently is through electricity, right? Mm-hmm. So there's flickering lights. If there's like a thunderstorm, my God, a lot of things will happen, you see, your picture on your TV screen, it'll like start jumping, stuff like that. Things that I honestly never experienced before. I experienced all those things, after my mom passed. And it just became very clear to me one day, oh my God, this is my mom. Okay. All right. And so I wanted to incorporate some of those like electrical sounds into Float. Just as a personal reminder for me that, okay, this is one of the ways in which my mom communicates with me. So however this song translates to other people, hopefully they'll be able to really realize not only the care and attention to detail, but the depth of sound that's there. But that doesn't necessarily overcrowd the meaning of the song, if that makes any sense.
No, that makes perfect sense. And having this context really changes the way I listen to it, honestly. Like, because I think I said earlier, I listened to this one a lot. I think it's those specific elements that make it different from all the other music, like the electricity noises and all the eerie feel of it. It's very, very different from every one of your other songs, really.
It really is. It really is. I said, I don't know what this song is about, but I'm going to figure it out. And, it took all that time. It took certain events for me to kind of circle back and say, oh my God, I know what this is about. So really quickly, why do you like the song? What did it pull out of you?
I mean, I figured it was about loss. I figured about all those things, and just sometimes I just go by vibe, because with a lot of individual songs, I don't always understand like the meaning until I like dive into like the lyric by lyric. But by vibe alone, I'm just like, this just feels spooky in a weird kind of cool way. And I don't mean to use spooky as a negative, but that is kind of my bread and butter in a weird way. So I'm just like, this feels very, very different. And I just kind of like, all right. So I do revisit this album. I throw it on shuffle, which I know a lot of folks don't like with albums, but I do it anyway.
Right.
And I start with this one and I'm just like, let's go.
Wow. Well, yeah. This song it's the wild card.
Yes.
The wild card and I think I might start to have a wild card in every album, because the last album, Between Two Worlds, the wild card for me was Runaway, which was a song about psychedelic drugs.
Yes.
It was awesome. And everyone's always like, so what's the song? I'm like, Runaway? Oh, yeah. This is a song about that one time I did drugs in college and I was like, what the fuck am I doing? But that's fine. Neither here nor there.
Yeah. That was young Lulu. This is grown up Lulu.
Yeah. Refined Lulu.
Oh yeah. I'm assuming you don't do psychedelics that often anymore.
Nah. Can't do all that. Not that often.
Yeah. Well, we're reaching the last song of the album, Don't Forget Me. And I'm sad now because I could talk to you forever, but
I know.
Don't forget me. Don't forget me. Keep our memories under lock and key. Don't forget me. Don't you let me go. You're the air I breathe. Don't forget me. Don't forget me. Yes, I miss you. Don't forget me. Don't you let me go to me. For you're the air I breathe.
let's talk about this song. When did you start writing this one, and why did you pick to make this the last song in the album?
Ooh, well, I'm gonna start with your second one first. Obviously, the song is dedicated to my mom.
Yes,
and I wanted this to be the last song because I wanted the bookends of this album to be very strong, very inviting, but also very different vibes. Again, this is not a concept album, but it takes you through a crazy journey.
Yes.
Yeah. And what I love, as an aside, is that all of these 5 songs are very, very different, but there's some type of through line that connects them all together. It's not just like a hodgepodge of random songs, right?
No.
So all that to say, I wanted Don't Forget Me to be the last song because There's something about this song that adds punctuation. It's also something that just kind of like eases people towards the end of the album. And I didn't want it to be too early or like in the middle of the album because it is a very heavy piece, right? So when did funny, oh man, talk about a transformation. A lot of things happened in 2020, not related to the pandemic in my life. I experienced a lot of change. First of all, I moved almost across the country from New York to the Midwest, had to relearn how to drive because I was like, who does that on the East Coast? Yeah. But then I initially started working on this song in May of 2020. So a year before my mom died, because my folks, they sold our DC family home and they were planning on moving to Senegal. And my parents had told us this so many times. Hey, when you girls grow up and get settled and have your families of your own, we want to retire. We were like, retire in Florida. That's what all the old people do. And they were like, no, we're retiring. We're going back home to Africa. So, oh my God, Jess, they built this beautiful custom built home in Senegal. It's so incredibly beautiful. It's so big. There's so many rooms. It's just really, I'm just so proud of them. Anyway, I digress. Yeah, they sold the house in May and they left in July, early July, got all their stuff shipped and they moved overseas. So prior to my mom passing away, I hadn't seen her for a year already. And that made life even more difficult. So I decided to write this song. And I believe around Christmas, December of 2020, I, uploaded a version of it to YouTube, and it was unlisted, and I just sent it to my family. I said, I want you to listen to this. This is a gift for mommy and daddy because they've moved, and all my life they've been right here. So I don't really know who I am now that they're all the way in Senegal and living out there, not just visiting, living. And after my mom passed, once again, I realized, oh my God, the universe made me write this song as preparation. And I remember I revisited the song because I said, I want this to specifically be about my mom now. I literally changed around maybe 2 lyrics, not lines, lyrics, like 2 words. And it ended up being 1,000% all about my mom. So that's what Don't Forget Me is about. It's just a plea for my mom to always be near me and not leave me and not forget me, even though she's left her body and left this earth. But I believe that she's in the spiritual realm. Again, she's constantly communicating with me. I have like pictures all around my studio space of her. And so she's constantly encouraging me and giving me pats on my back. And I just needed to write that song for her, because that's how I connect to her, is through song.
You are very prophetic, Lulu, and I'm glad that we've done this, because I think unpacking this is discovering how you kind of write the emotions you need later.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's
Like,
very, very bizarre.
It's very incredible, and I feel like
Thank you.
it leans into the overall theme of transformation in your life, where these songs start as one thing and then transform into love letters to your mother.
Yeah.
And the fact that more than one song has done that, and I think it's really, really cool. And I'm going to listen to this entire EP album very differently from now on. I'm going to be much more emotionally, spiritually connected to what you were doing and what you're at. And I'm grateful for this, sincerely. I'm great. As just a person that enjoys your work, I am grateful that I now know this information and have this connection to you through your work. So I'm very grateful for you giving me this time.
Thank you so very much. And thank you for having me on your show. It really, really means a lot. It does. A lot of times you think, another day, another album. There's so many things happening around the country and world. I'm not famous. Nobody cares about my stories. And then I have to stop and pause and I say, okay, what are you doing this for? You're doing this, first of all, for yourself, because it offers healing. And the people, and because it offers healing, and because everything I do it with so much depth of emotion and honesty, it will reach the people that are supposed to hear it. And so that is That's my way of just kind of keeping my feet firmly planted and not getting away from myself and thinking, oh great, well, I'm not Beyonce or I'm not this person or that person. So why does it matter? It matters because one, I'm alive, and two, I'm damn good at what I do. So of course it matters, right?
Exactly. And don't undercut yourself with the I'm not Beyonce. You're Lulu fucking Fall, and that's
I
pretty
know.
great.
I'm not her, and she's not me. I love her shit, and I'm sure whenever she discovers me, she'll love that shit too.
Oh, believe me, it's coming. I've got a feeling we're about the 2020s are going to be the Lulu Sons, where you're going to be on the billboards, and then they'll be like, "Oh, you knew her when?" Yeah, I did. Um,
That'd be
but
awesome.
we're gotta wrap this up as much as I really don't want to, but
I
there
know.
are some things I want to remind folks out there. The album is out right now, and if you sat through this episode and you didn't listen to it first, I hope this has been the best advertisement ever for this album. Transform on Lulu Fall's website, on anywhere that you can get digital music. Download it, listen to it 50 times, and then follow Lulu on Instagram and all that. And if you're also there, you should check out Lulu Fall Abstracts, her Etsy page, which is an incredible place. You're an incredible visual artist, and we didn't talk that much about it,
I
but you
know.
do incredible, like actual proper art with a capital A.
Thank you. Thank you. Another random thing that was born from the pandemic. Isn't that interesting?
It's incredible. And if you are in the Metro Detroit area, come down to oh my good Lulu, you're having an art show in January, correct?
In
And
January, yes, at Congregation,
Mhm.
which is an old church converted to a coffee shop and eatery, and it's what
Rosa
is it
Parks
gonna be?
Boulevard in Detroit.
Yes. I think 9231 or 9321, something like that. But that's
Mhm.
in January, so just look out for emails, advertisements, posts about that.
Mhm.
My second
And
ever art show.
do you have a best social media account where they can get all the Lulu Fall news that they need?
Oh, I post majority of the time on Instagram and Facebook. On Instagram, I'm Lulu Fall Official. On Facebook, I do have music page, a fan page, and you can just search Lulu Fall, and you'll see my
Hmm.
face.
All right. Is there anything else you want to say before we wrap this up, Lulu?
Um, Thank you very much for supporting independent music. Music is beautiful, it's universal language, and it's also designed to heal. So please listen to this EP, allow yourself to be fully immersed in these 5 songs.
Thank you guys for listening, and buy the album. Give Lulu your money. Donate. Buy her art. Come on. We'll see you next time, guys.
You got me thinking I love you. Got me thinking I love you. Oh,